Firescape Services. We provide inspections and certifications, repairs, and load tests to remove violations in your area and nationwide. So whether you're an inspector or whether you're somebody, you have your own home, you have your own building, the first thing is the law is very clear. It must be structurally sound and must be kept painted. So is the fire escape painted or is it not painted? And does it have more paint than rust or more rust than paint? So I can just look at this fire escape and say that I have evidence right now that there's more rust than paint on this fire escape. So immediately, if you were to call an inspector out here, the law doesn't allow him to pass this fire escape simply because it has more rust than paint. And structural means that if the fire escape is 50 to 75 years old, when any inspector is looking at it, he's got to see some evidence of maintenance. And maintenance means that I have to see a change in bolts, I have to see a change in rivets, I have to see some new hardware. Because when I go up to a fire escape, I see nothing but original hardware. That hardware is 50 to 75 years old. It's been out in the weather 50 to 75 years, and it's just impossible for not one of those rivets, one of those bolts to be changed in 50 to 75 years. And whenever that occurs, what I have is a fire escape that somebody's been constantly painting, but they've never done anything structurally to it. So now that makes the entire fire escape pretty much suspect. So now I have to be careful as to what I'm looking at to make sure that the structural now, on especially the major structural connections, are in good order. Thank you for watching our video. Please call us today at 800-649-3333 to discuss your fire escape issue with a live inspector or schedule an inspection in your area today. Fire escape engineers inspect the summary video. Fire escape number 2 here in White Plains. 1 of 7. This is 2 of 7. And what we have here is a fire escape very similar to the in detail summary report that we did for fire escape number 1. Again, same thing. 100% of this fire escape needs to be painted. It's older than 1978, so it does have paint and lead. Must be a licensed renovator to touch this. With that being said, a full scraping is needed. But let's look at what else is wrong with the fire escape. Every rail corner, every rail has got ice jacking, severe rust in every corner. Everything's popped. This first floor's got, probably some of the most severe, but it's already popped in this corner. And as you go along the line, it's no longer connected, just out there in space. So this fire escape is not being held together too well. And that's what sort of keeps the nose on all the supports. Cement, it's not as bad as the first one. We do have structural cracks, spalling happening throughout every floor, but I believe that corner on that particular one has probably got the most weather. This one's in sort of a little pocket and protected by all these buildings, so it probably doesn't get as much snow. But structurally, she's got the rail on the outside, and that rail needs to be extended so that in case you fall, you don't fall throughout the fire escape. But then on the inside, there's no inside rail, as you can see, and no protective rail that's needed there so you don't fall inside the pit on every floor. Every floor is missing its rail, except for the top floor. There's the rail right there. There's a protective rail up there to keep you from falling into the pit. So it does have a roof access ladder, and this roof access ladder does need to be secured. All original hardware, as you can see. So, but this fire escape hasn't seen maintenance. I was looking for evidence of maintenance. It's nothing but original rivets and original square heads. Not one new bolt on a tread anywhere. And the treads have all the same issues as fire escape number 1. Again, 100% of the treads have rust buildup, and all that is to the point where some of these treads are going to let go in the future, and they're all riveted, which is by far one of the toughest. Rebolting is riveted fire escapes. They're very difficult. The ladder, as soon as you lift it up a little bit, that hook comes away, but that hook is only being held by one old bolt. There, that needs to be changed out. Does fall down to the ground here. Does have a metal grate that should be resecured. It's starting to lift. And again, all original hardware holding that ladder. It will guillotine down. There's nothing slowing it down. We need to discuss this with the inspector of record, Ivan, whether or not he wants that ladder to be permanently mounted on the wall, 7 to 9 feet off the ground, and you just jump the last 7 to 9 feet, or if he wants us to leave this as is because it's a pre-existing condition, or does he want us to put weights on it so that it drops 2 to 3 feet per second? That is to be discussed with the inspector, and his final decision will then determine the repair. As you start getting up there, you're going to start seeing a lot of rust. Every rail has rust jacking. Every rail, rust jacking. Rust jacking in the corners. Popped every single bolt, rust jacking. Rust jacking. So everywhere, just repeats itself. This fire escape is a mirror. And they all have various repairs that need to be done, but 100% of all the bolts need to be done on that fire escape, and 100% of all the bolts need to be done on this. So it's really a small percentage change from one to the other, but everything has to be done, because the only way to guarantee any of these old 50 to 75-year-old bolts is to load test them. Or, in lieu of a load test, swap out the old bolts, put in new bolts, and then the inspector will not order a load test. Cement work. Some cement work, and this one doesn't have it as bad as fire escape number 1, has to be done by a mason. Some of the temporary work will be done by the iron worker, which is well within his scope of work, within 4 to 8 inches square of the steel going into the building. But then if there's structural cracks on the wall, sill work, it's all to be done by a mason after all the fire escapes are repaired. Any work done on this fire escape by a mason, the certification is null and void until such time that the mason is done with all his work. Then you need to have the fire escapes re-inspected during any and all times that the mason is doing some work on the building and is using the fire escapes. The certification is null and void, and any and all responsibilities of anything that occurs on this fire escape lies solely with the contractor who's doing the work. Upon completion of his work, then the fire escapes are re-inspected and recertified in lieu of a load test. Any questions? Fire escape engineers. Inspector Manessas here. Fire escape number 2 of 7 here in White Plains.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him.
Oh, I was scared to death.
But the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes.
So then over here?
For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files,
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No,
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.